Hello and welcome back to WTF MCP. I'm your host, Jay Shalansky. Once again, we are diving into affiliations. Last week we did Avengers, now we're on to X-Men. If you've been enjoying this series, like and subscribe. And if you know any new players that you think could benefit, hey, share this with them, please. We'd appreciate it. So, again, we are diving into the X-Men this week. Real interesting about the X-Men, they're very mobile, they love to control, and the big thing about X-Men is the way that they generate and share power is super interesting, very helpful. My buddy plays these guys against me all the time, and they're a bane of my existence, but they're very good. And so, like always, we are going to jump in first thing to leaders. So basically, X-Men have three leaders, and the first one we're going to start with is Xavier. So his leadership ability is Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Basically what he does is once per turn, when an allied character spends one or more power to use a superpower, after that effect is resolved, another allied character may gain a power. So he basically promotes efficient power distribution amongst your team. He ensures that the power-hungry characters that you may have on your X-Men roster are getting the power that they need to function. And, he's got just a ton of cool other things and a lot of psychic attacks, which are very cool. And, there's some affiliations and some characters that just don't have very low psychic defense. And so, bringing him onto the board is a very cool card. And he's got some tactics cards that are pretty great. So next on the leadership is Cyclops. So again, in the last card update, Cyclops did get an update. And his leadership ability, which is X-Men Blue, when an allied character deals damage to an enemy on an attack, another allied character may gain a power, and this can happen once per turn. This is another great resource for power generation, right? So that's the thing that X-Men really do the best, is sharing their power and exploiting that and really using that power to control and manipulate the battlefield. The other really neat thing about Cyclops is he has this superpower called Field Leader, and it allows any allied character within 4 to advance small. Very, very cool. So if you're trying to move your characters through, control board side, Cyclops is fantastic in helping that out. The next leader for the X-Men is Storm, and her ability is X-Men Gold. So once per round, during an allied character's activation, if they don't have an objective, they can spend a power and place another allied character within 2 of themselves. Then that character that spent the power to do that place then gets placed within 1 of the character you just moved. So you're kind of doing this like leapfrog thing down towards whatever, an objective, another character, like whatever you're trying to do. The other cool thing with her leadership ability is she can also, if an enemy targets an ally, if the enemy is not within 2, the ally may re-roll one of their defense dice. So she's just really cool for mobility, for defense, and like allowing your team to reposition throughout the battlefield. So very, very cool leaders. And I think it all just depends on your style, what you're looking to do, how aggressive or non-aggressive you want to be with this team, and who your lineup is. X-Men have been getting a lot more characters, so there's a lot of really great options for them. And they're just super interesting. And I think each one of these leaders has a very cool leadership, and I think they're all usable. It just depends on your play style. So the next thing we're going to cover is other characters you should be putting in your X-Men list. And first up is Bishop. Bishop is very versatile. He's got a lot of ranged attacks. He's got he can absorb and redirect energy. His big thing is he can throw. So he for 3 power he can throw something medium, size 4, which is cool. He can readjust attackers' dice on his wilds. So like if he's being attacked and he rolls a wild, he can change the attacker's die, but he also gains a power for each time he does that. So he's generating all this power. One of the things you do have to watch out for is if he has 8 or more power during the power phase, he suffers a wound. But with Bishop and all the different things you can do with him, you end up spending that power really quickly. He's just really great. And then he also has 3 immunities: incinerate, poison, and stun. So very, very good character, highly mobile, and very cool and defensive as well. The next one we're gonna look at is Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde. She's very mobile character. She specializes in phasing, which is super cool. With that, on her attacks, she makes your character, your enemy's characters, ignore crits, which they don't count, and they don't explode, which is wild and very difficult to deal with when you're playing against this. She also has a range 2 place, so she can be placed range 2 of herself, and then also she can bolster defense rolls of allies. So really, really versatile character, very cool. And she has a really cool tactics card that deals with objectives. So if you're looking to put in a really cool 3-threat, Shadowcat is your girl. Next, we're going to talk about Domino. Domino is a powerhouse. So she's ranged attack. She can get off multiple attacks, on one attack, which is wild. Lots of dice manipulation to help make her attacks more consistent. She also packs a punch, and slightly similar to Shadowcat, she messes with opponents' criticals. So crits don't explode, or you can't roll another die for crits against Domino, whether you're attacking or defending against her, which is wild. And then she also has a superpower that allows her to treat skulls as crits. So Domino, very difficult to kill. She packs a huge punch, and I've seen her on her own take out very high threat characters, which is super cool. So the next one we're going to cover is Wong. This is a splash character. Now, we did this during Avengers 2, and I just really think that, Wong is just one of these characters that you can throw into any affiliated list, and he's going to do well, especially with Xavier, the sharing power. So he's, one of his superpowers allows him to share a power, and if he triggers that, well, it triggers Xavier's superpower, add a power. So with the two of these, you could be building up a lot of power on a character who really needs it. So Wong as a splash character outside of Affiliation, highly recommend for X-Men. Yeah, so next we're going to get into tactics cards. So I think X-Men probably have some of the best Affiliation tactics cards in the game. They have so many options. All their not all, but a good chunk of their characters have phenomenal tactics cards as well. I'm going to focus on just the X-Men affiliated ones right now. And so number 1, First Class. This is by far, if you're playing X-Men, this card is staple to your X-Men list, because during the first round, each allied X-Men character can basically use an objective or secure an objective for free. So they don't spend any power. They can interact with an objective. They can grab a secure for free. For the first round. It's a wild card. It's so useful. And highly, if you're playing X-Men, this card is stapled to your list. Next is To Me, My X-Men. So any number of allied X-Men characters can spend a power, and they can move short towards whoever's characters the activation is. So very, very cool. Yeah, it's another great card. Move your characters around, get that mobility. X-Men are very mobile, and this is a great card for that. Next one is Children of the Atom. An allied character can spend a power to remove all special conditions from themselves and gain a power for each one that they do so. This is a great card. A lot of options for this, especially if you're playing like against an apocalypse list that's like dumping tokens onto people and conditions. So, really, really cool way to kind of Also, if you like mobility and you're locked down with like slow or something like that, like this is a great card to kind of clear that out and get you moving. And finally, we're going to look at Xavier's Dream. When an allied character would suffer wounds, any number of allied characters can spend a power, and for each power spent, the character then reduces the amount of wounds by one. This is a highly frustrating card for your opponent because, you know, basically you've got power. If you're using Xavier or if you're using Cyclops and Wong, like you've got power to spare out there. Everyone's building power. And so let's say there's a really critical moment in the game, you have an objective or you're going for something and a huge attack comes through onto that character and you need them to stay alive. You could play Xavier's Dream and if not completely wipe out all the wounds coming through, you could get a majority of them. So this is very good card, and very interesting in play. And again, one of those things that X-Men does well that's super frustrating. So, yeah, when building an effective X-Men team, you want to consider some of the following things. So, again, I think this is with any affiliation. You want to make sure what you're trying to do is aligned with the strengths of your leader. If somebody's very power hungry, you know, you're going to want to look at Cyclops or Xavier to try to get them some power. You know, you want to make sure that you have a good balance of things. Sometimes X-Men can get a little thin as far as lower threat characters. And so you want to make sure that you have like a Bishop, a Cable, a Wolverine kind of tossed in there that can handle some hits. Even Colossus is a very good punching bag to throw out there so that your other characters can kind of do the work on the team. And then, you know, listen, I think if you're playing outside an affiliation event, you want to look at what kind of splash characters can kind of bring X-Men up. Like Wong is a very good one. Another one to look at is Archangel. Him and Psylocke have some really cool interactions that you're going to want to check out. So, you know, really take a look at how you can bolster your X-Men team. They have a lot and they do a lot. So sometimes that can get distracting and you can get unfocused. So just make sure you're focusing up on your leadership abilities. And then when we're looking at crisis cards, you really want to focus on first class, right? So if you focus on any crisis cards where there's a secure extracts that are kind of spread out and you're playing a bigger character count team, you're going to be able to secure most of those objectives early on before your opponent can do anything. And I've seen firsthand that a turn one push with first class and just kind of being able to secure a ton of objectives really puts your opponent on the back foot, and it takes them a while to catch up. Now, I will say on a number of occasions, you can find that on the back end, X-Men will kind of slow down towards turn 3 and 4. More 4, you know, later 4, turn 4, they start to slow down because they have that early like 1 through 3 push where your opponent's trying to come back from that first class play. So just watch yourself and make sure that you're positioning yourself well towards the end of the game to wait for that late game push that a lot of other affiliations can do, like Servants Apocalypse, Avengers, Defenders. They can do a lot of later game pushes, so just be aware of that and position yourself well. But yeah, so that's X-Men for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Again, like and subscribe and join us next week as we continue talking about affiliations.